Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first concert of our spring series. We're really happy to have you listen in today. And I want to tell you that if you happen to miss today, or you want to tell your friends about it, you can see the video on our Facebook page and on our website anytime you'd like. And if you care to make a donation, the concerts are free for you to look at them whenever you like, but a donation would be gratefully accepted. So think about that. And I wanted to tell you that the next performance is going to be on March 14th. We will have a string quartet playing absolutely wonderful music. But this is really important because today it's Valentine's Day. And Valentine is associated with love and sweetness and light and gentleness. What better way to start our performance but that with the sounds of the Dulcimer, which by its very name means sweet. So please, sit down, choose your seat, wherever you are, sit down and enjoy the art of the Dulcimer and all its related instruments. Please welcome Joe Venegoni.
Thank you. So it's an absolutely gorgeous day here in Patagonia, the Opera House. I wish you could join us in person, but thank you for tuning in online. As we know, this goes out to millions of people across the world. And so hopefully we're going to play you some beautiful music today. And since it is a Sunday, I am going to start playing a piece with the hammer dulcimer, and it is called Blessing. wonderful audience here today. I brought in several instruments today that are primarily associated with folk music, but I have taken them into other directions. So I'm going to be playing original compositions today that were written for the instruments. This instrument here is a hammered dulcimer, for those of you that might not be familiar with it, an ancient instrument, precursor to the piano, goes back about 3,000 years and has spread throughout the world. It's part of India's classical music, China's classical music, up into Europe with the Crusades. Beautiful variations of this in Renaissance Italy came over to the United States primarily with the Irish and the Germans, and is still part of classical music in Romania too. So that's that instrument. I have the next instrument I'll be playing. This is a Appalachian or mountain dulcimer. Even though it shares the name with this instrument, it is not really related. It is believed to have originated in the Appalachian Mountains, and I came across it in the Missouri Ozarks, where I came across most of the stringed instruments that I have here today. It's a 4-stringed instrument, and it's normally played with a melody line on these first doubled strings, and the other 2 strings are left open as a drone. You don't see it much today because every time you change keys for this instrument, you have to change the tuning. The tunings come out of the Middle Ages, and it's not that easy just to change keys in this. It's a modal instrument, and you can see that the frets are very irregular, unlike a guitar. The piece I'm going to be playing today, to start with, is called Another Lady's Time Passing. This started out as a very quiet, soft piece, and when I introduced it to a jazz ensemble, it picked up speed and became quite lively. And it's recorded on the first album I did called Occurrence. It's a LP. You could probably find it somewhere online. All right. Next time, I'm going to grab an auto harp. I began my professional music career in Branson, Missouri, at a theme park called Silver Dollar City. A friend of mine, Greg Becker, who introduced me to all of these instruments, formed a string band called the Swing and Turn Jubilee, and we were invited to perform at the Mountain Folks Music Festival. We were taken under the wing of a collector named Max Hunter, whose collection of folk tunes and ballads that he collected throughout the Missouri Ozarks is now part of the Library of Congress. And the guy was a great guy. So he got us our first audition at Silver Dollar City, and we were in the Mountain Folks Music Festival, and we were the darlings of the festival, so we ended up getting a full-time summer job there. So that's where all this started. And it was we played mostly fiddle tunes and string band types of music, traditional music. We drew from Max Hunter's collection a number of different songs. But this particular piece is from one of the members of that group, Mr. Darrell Humes, and he was a big influence on my style of playing auto harp. The piece is called Ghost Lover. This is Mr. Humes' piece. Yeah. So, back to the hammer dulcimer. This is a piece called Cross Country. I wrote it for my brother. Some years ago, he was told to get out and get some exercise. This is my older brother, and at the time he was 50. And I said, well, he didn't like running, he didn't want to do other things. I said, let's go out bike riding. So I took him out bike riding, and I spent the day waiting for him. I'd ride ahead, stop, wait for him to catch up. A year later, we went out riding again, and I saw him at the start, and he took off, and he was waiting for me at the finish line. He ended up being one of like 3 riders in the country, like 3rd place for distance riding and what miles he rode in the year. So anyway, this piece is cross country, and this appears on Open Road, the recording Open Road if you're looking for it. Again, a lot of these pieces were performed, originally recorded, and released as jazz ensemble pieces, which would have bass, drums, flute, guitar, vibes, and any number. I've worked with some absolutely wonderful artists, but cross country. Part of what I've worked on extensively with this instrument is to put, these are called hammers or mallets, to put these down and to play the instrument with my fingers. And it allowed more chordal possibilities, and it gives it a more harp-like sound to it. In 1984, I believe, in 1984, I entered a competition. It was a national hammer dulcimer competition in Winfield, Kansas. And that year I came in 2nd place, which was not correct. I thought I was like 3rd place. And the person that was in 3rd place, I thought should have been in 1st place. So long story short, the person that came in 3rd was from Iran. And he played some more traditional Mid-Eastern style music. I played some other original compositions, and it created a kind of a backlash in that they instituted or inserted a new rule into the requirements saying you have to play music within the theme of the festival. And it was kind of like to make sure that the rebel crowd wasn't coming in and playing jazz on their folk instruments. The next year, in 1985, I think I became the first musician that was disqualified from that competition. And I believe this is the piece that disqualified me. It's called Orient, and it was inspired by a Japanese koto ensemble that I heard where they would bend the notes. And so I thought, gee, I could do that. So I incorporated that into this piece. It's called Orient, and again, this is off my first album called The Currents. I'm having a little bit of difficulty sometimes with this because of the mask. My glasses are fogging up, and the instrument disappears on me. But, so, such are the ways of today. Well, how do I do that? I don't know if or how many of you have been to the Opera House here, but it's an absolutely gorgeous venue for concerts. I've had the privilege and blessing and to work with some wonderful Indian artists, Indian masters, and even though they play for hundreds of thousands of people in concerts in India, their belief is that a really true interaction of music, that the musician should be able to see the eyes of the people in the audience. And as far as having a beautiful, intimate setting, this is it. So I hope we get a chance to interact in person here someday. This is a piece, Eli's song, and Eli was a teacher at the Montessori in Nashville. My wife and my daughter and I were there for a year in the early 2000s. And I was working on a project there, and my daughter was put into the Montessori school. And as my wife was talking with the director of the school, the music instructor for the school had put in their resignation. And before I could know it, my wife volunteered me as the volunteer music person for the school. So I would go in and play music from every week. And I did a benefit concert with them. But Eli was one of the instructors, and this was a piece she really liked, so it ended up having her name on it. For those of you that play auto harp, I know most of you probably use picks on your fingers to play the instrument. And I know the reason for that is it tears up your fingers. So we won't be playing a lot of this today, since I tend to play without picks. It's Valentine's Day today, so I have a beautiful piano here, and I don't consider myself a pianist, but my wife thinks I play the piano. So as a dedication for her on Valentine's Day, I'm going to play this piece. And also, the piece is called Inner Passage, and it's actually I've recorded it as a duet with this wonderful trumpeter named Bill Ortiz, who happened to be Santana's trumpeter for 3 decades plus. So it's on a project that we're still working on, but hopefully in the coming year we'll have that out in some form. So Inner Passage. for those of you that are first being introduced to my music and that, I spend a great deal of time playing music for dance technique classes. And because of that, I've worked with some of the greats and companies from Martha Graham, Paul Taylor, and have had a really nice niche in that, and commission work that has come from that. A number of companies I worked with in the San Francisco Bay Area and in New York. So it's been a real blessing, but my piano skills come from about having 3 minutes in every dance class to play something on the piano for them. And there's times when I actually climb inside the piano and we'll do percussive things in there too. We'll spare this piano today for that. So I'm heading back over to the hammer dulcimer. This is a piece called Between Us. It seems this has been a year of loss for a lot of people. The next piece, the title is "If I Should Never No More to See You," and that phrase comes from a folk song, which was a variation on Charming Betsy, and the chorus was coming round the mountain, Charming Betsy, coming round the mountain, Coley. And if I never no more to see you, darling, will you remember me? And I was thinking about the loss that a lot of people have experienced this year. And this is a piece of, there's stories of your relatives and loved ones going into the hospital, and that's the last you see of them. So hopefully this is kind of a soothing piece for those who may have had that experience or going through that experience. I have no idea. How are we doing on time? We're just about? That's really... All right, then. Okay. Let me see what I have. This is a piece called Where Rivers Meet, and it's off of a CD by the same name. It really hasn't been released yet, but the piece was written by Todd Mosby, and it's recorded as a trio with Daryl Mixon on bass, Todd Mosby, who's a really, really fine guitarist. Daryl Mixon's a great bass player. Todd Mosby, guitarist, and myself on Hammer Dulcimer. And if you have a chance, check out Todd. I've done quite a bit of work with him, and now he's doing his own thing. And he studied with Emrat Khan, an Indian master, and has developed a new hybrid type guitar. And he does some wonderful things. Anyway, this piece is called Where Rivers Meet. It's been my pleasure being here. I hope you get a chance to join me here someday. I hope I get a chance to meet you here someday. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
So, Joe, that was an absolutely wonderful performance.
Oh,
I have
thank you.
not heard these instruments played like that ever. But I want to ask you, what was the first instrument you decided to play or happened to play?
The first thing that I put together was empty liquor boxes from my dad's restaurant and put them in the basement and set up a drum set with those. Then an accordion from my grandfather came into the house, but I wasn't real thrilled with that, but I was able to start to pick out music on that. And then my aunt and uncle, who lived in a two-family flat below my grandmother and grandfather, had a piano for my cousins. But when my grandmother would babysit me, I would always sneak down and try and play the piano. And that came to an abrupt end one New Year's Day morning. All the adults were out partying on New Year's Eve, and I snuck down at 6 o'clock in the morning to play the piano, and that was censored.
That did not go too well.
But I really didn't play any music throughout through grade school, high school. I played sports, and that took up most of my time. And even in the college, I was still playing sports we were NCAA champions where I went to school, and was also able to go to the Olympics as like an alternate in 1972 to Munich. So I was very competitive in sport, and it wasn't until I finished my schooling, a friend of mine that I grew up with was going to school in Springfield, Missouri at Southwest Missouri State University. And he said, come on down here. And that's where I met Greg Becker, a gentleman who had all of these instruments. Actually, he had play guitar and fiddle and mountain dulcimer and auto harp, and he left the mountain dulcimer and auto harp at our home over the weekend, and by Monday I was playing them.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So they really had you hooked at that point.
Yeah, and I played for about a year, and then we formed a string band together, and Max Hunter, who I mentioned in the concert, discovered us and took us under his wing, and we did all kinds of traditional music, from ballads and Greg and we had a female vocalist, Kim Gershevsky, and those two were just wonderful singers, and so we performed all throughout the Ozark area, and that's where I got my start.
Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, and you got it firsthand, so to speak.
Yeah, and everything was by ear, was orally transmitted.
Wonderful.
And it wasn't until later I started writing my own music, and at that time I was working in as a recreational therapist in psych hospitals. And a music therapist came in named Barbara Else, a flautist, and we ended up doing a number of recordings together. But a guitarist, Bernard Hoover, came in, and we started putting together a jazz ensemble. And it was at that point that the musicians around me I would teach them orally, here's what I wrote, and they would break it down and decipher it. And as I was sitting there listening to them discuss the music and trying to follow along, it was like, I'd better learn what I'm doing here if I'm going to continue to do this.
Yeah.
And then, so I started studying with mostly Henry Claude, who was the St. Louis Symphony percussionist. And it was Henry he was also I think he still is, music director for the dance department at Washington University in St. Louis. And we were having coffee one day, and he says, "What are you doing this afternoon?" He says, "Come on, we're going to go play a dance class." And I says, What do I need to do?" And he says, "You'll figure it out." And
you did.
that was my introduction into working with dance, and that's been a real blessing for me.
Absolutely, because you got the basics of collaboration, and playing ensemble is the most important thing as far as I'm concerned, with other musicians, and you did a absolutely wonderful opportunity there. What I was taken by with your performance today was, I've heard the recordings with the ensemble, but I hadn't heard you play solo. And there is a very special quality, and I'm not sure if you were aware of it or not, there's a very special quality in your approach to all of these instruments.
Well, thanks.
Well, it's true. It really is true. And in this space, too, the acoustics, it just brings out the beauty of these instruments that have been around for so long in various forms. And and I was intrigued by the fact that you used your hands more than the hammers and got these sounds, especially when you did this, what sounded to me just like the koto. It just was really incredible. So I thank you very much for being here, and it was a wonderful experience. What a nice way to spend a Valentine's Day.
Absolutely.
Really. And it's, love, sweetness, and your homage to all of the people that have had suffered this year. I think it's all part of the occupational therapy. And as musicians, I think that's what we're in, really. That's what we're involved in all the time when we perform.
Yeah.
So I thank you very, very much, and I hope that at some point you will be able to come back once we get people in this room.
Anytime. I love performing in this venue when there's direct connection with the people that are there. That's really what it's all about.
And we do have a wonderful audience. We really do. We're very blessed. So thank you, Joe.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And hope to see you very soon.
Thank you for the crew who's doing all the technical work behind this.
Right. We have a wonderful crew. Eduardo, and I know he's going to be working on this now, and will be shown very shortly. Our interview will be on our Facebook page, and it will be on our website. Right. So take care.
All right.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Bye.